Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. Today I have swatches for you from the Mexico City collection by OPI for spring 2020. This collection was sent to me from HB Beauty Bar, so in the description box below I will link the HB Beauty Bar site, I will link their Instagram page, I will link the OPI site and Instagram page, as well as my Instagram where you can see more swatches of everything from this collection. I do also have a 20% off coupon code. It is here on the screen as well as in the description box. That is good for any purchases at HB Beauty Bar. So there are 12 polishes in this collection, and let's go ahead and get started. So first we have Viva OPI, and this is a very bright cherry red cream. Here's our first coat of Viva OPI. So this covers really well here on this first coat. Virtually a one coater if you only had time to do one coat and have to go. This one you could definitely get away with. I am going to go ahead and show you what a second coat looks like today just to hide any kind of visible nail line that I might have. I for some reason have more of a visible nail line on my pointer and middle finger than on my other fingers. So it's a pretty good gig here. So that is completely opaque in two coats. It is going to dry down a touch darker than when it's wet, and that shine or that brightness will come back as you put a top coat on it. So there is two coats. Up next we have My Chihuahua Doesn't Bite Anymore, and this is a very bright neon red cream. Here's our first coat of My Chihuahua Doesn't Bite Anymore. So this one covers pretty good here on this first coat. Excuse me. It's looking a little bit more opaque here on camera than in person because it is so bright. I am going to go in for a second coat. This one has a really good formula, not too thick or too thin, no running or pooling. I did have a little bit of staining on my skin, so just bear that in mind. It comes right off if you wash your hands. For me anyway. So this is completely opaque in two coats. This one's also gonna dry down a little bit darker than when it's wet. So this will also dry glossy. And there is two coats. Up next we have Mural on the Wall, and this is a kind of salmony pink jelly loaded with these gold, they're kind of like iridescent-y gold flakes. Here's our first coat of Mural on the Wall. This one is very sheer here on this first coat. You could use this as a topper. I'm going to build it up on its own today. These flakes are really beautiful once they're built up. I think they would have probably stood out better in a little bit of a darker base, so I do hope OPI continues to experiment with this formula and maybe put some other flakes or even these flakes in different colored bases. I just think they would stand out a little bit better if the base color was a little bit darker. The formula on this is good though. Again, not too thick, not too thin, no running, pulling, or staining. These flakes come out easily and they do spread out evenly across the nail with minimal manipulation to get them to do so. So this is pretty much opaque here in three coats. This one's going to dry decently glossy, but I would still recommend a top coat just to give it that nice plump finished look. Nothing will dry textured or be difficult to remove, so there is three coats. Next we have Culling Your Spirit Animal, and this is like a orange sickle, is that what that's called? An orange sickle color, and then it's got like more of a peachy orange tone to it, if you don't know what I'm talking about, because I don't even know what I'm talking about. And this is a cream. Here's our first coat of Culling Your Spirit Animal. So this one covers really well here in this first coat. I do have a couple patchy spots though, so I am going to go in for a second coat. Formula is good, not too thick or too thin, no running, pooling, or staining. This is the last polish that I swatched on this day, so you will notice after this polish, my swatching gets extremely sloppy. I was so shaky this day. I don't know why. So I apologize for that. It's probably the cringiest video I've ever put on YouTube. But this one is completely opaque in two coats and it will dry very glossy all on its own. So there's two coats. Up next we have Telenovela Me About It, and this is a bright flamingo pink with a subtle purpley blue shimmer. Here's our first coat of Telenovela Me About It. This one's pretty sheer here on this first coat, but this one also has a very smooth formula. Not too thick, not too thin, no running, pulling, or staining. The shimmer that's in here stands out better on the nails than it does in the bottle, at least here on this first coat. Once it's built up, for some reason you do lose some of that shimmer. It's still there, but in like everyday settings you probably won't notice it. So this is building up well in 2 coats. I am going to show you what a 3rd coat looks like today. Depending on your application, your preference, and how super picky you are, you might be able to get away with 2 coats. I would personally wear this one on 2 coats, no problem, but I'm also not extremely picky. So here's that 3rd coat, and it does cover 100%. This one's going to dry decently glossy on its own. I would recommend that top coat still, just to keep your manicure lasting if nothing else. So there is 3 coats. Up next we have Don't Tell a Soul, and this is a very bright summer yellow, but it's not like a primary yellow. It does have a good bit of white in it. Here's our first coat of Don't Tell a Soul. So this one for a yellow covers really well here on this first coat. Very patchy though, so I am going to go ahead and build this one up. Formula is good, again, not thick, not thin, right there in the middle, pretty on par with typical OPI cream formulas. So here is our 2nd coat, and that's building up really well in 2 coats. Again, if you're not super picky, you could probably get away with 2 coats, or if your application is a little bit better than mine was this day, again, shaky problems, couldn't tell you why. I would probably be just fine in 2 coats on a normal day. I am going to do a 3rd coat today though, just to take care of the patchiness that I left behind. So this is completely opaque in 3 coats. This one's also going to dry glossy without any kind of top coat, but I would recommend top coat just to, again, keep your manicure lasting. And I didn't have any kind of staining with this either. So there is 3 coats. Up next we have Suzi's Slinging Mezcal, and this is a kind of antiqued gold shimmer. Here's our first coat of Suzi's Slinging Mezcal. Mezcal? Oh no, I looked it up for the bottle shop, but I can't remember it now. Formula on this is good. It covers okay here on this first coat. I am going to show you what 2 coats looks like today, and I would personally wear this just fine in 2 coats. You can probably make out a hint of nail line, so you might want to go in for a 3rd coat. But I don't think anybody's going to notice the slightest hint of nail line that could be left behind on 2 coats with this one. You will want top coat just to bring shine back to this one. It does dry a little bit on the dull side, and nothing in here is going to dry textured or be difficult to remove, even with this tiny micro glitter, so there's 2 coats. Up next we have Mexico City Movement, and this is a light powdery baby blue cream. Here's our first coat of Mexico City Movement. This one covers really surprisingly well here on this first coat. I do have a couple powdery blues from OPI, and this is by far the best formula and best coverage one of the ones that I do have. Formula is, again, very smooth and easy to apply. I didn't have any kind of issues with running, pulling, or staining, even with my shaky tendencies on this day. I also was able to achieve full opacity on 2 coats. You might need to go in for a 3rd coat, but I really highly doubt it. This one is going to dry glossy, again, without any assistance. I would still recommend that top coat, though, just to protect your manicure. So there is 2 coats. Up next we have Verde, Nice to Meet You, and this is a teal for sure, but it's like almost identical to the color of a Tiffany's box. It's mostly that blue shade, but it does have a kiss of a green to it. Here's our first coat of Verde, nice to meet you. You know, I don't know why, but for my OPI videos, my bottle shots tend to be extremely blown out. To address that real quick, the portion of me painting my nails that you're watching right now is the most color accurate, along with the photos. The bottle shots are, I don't even know why I include them, but they're there. So this is completely opaque in 2 coats, a smooth, easy to work with formula, no running, pooling, or staining. This is going to dry glossy all on its own. Again, like I always say, I would recommend top coat either way. So there is 2 coats. Up next we have Mikasa es Blue Casa, and that's probably my favorite name of the collection. This is a bright primary blue cream. Here's our first coat of Mikasa es Blue Casa. So this one covers pretty well here on this first coat, not completely opaque, but it does apply nice and evenly. I didn't have running, pooling, or staining with this one either. You can make out some nail line. It is kind of more of a crelly-esque finish on this one. It is going to dry nice and glossy and be a little bit squishy on the nail, so that's where the crelly-esque-ness comes from. So this is completely opaque in 2 coats. This one's going to dry plump and glossy and beautifully all on its own. And how cute would this look with some red glitter on top? So there is 2 coats. Up next we have Mariachi Makes My Day, and this is a purple cream for sure, and it definitely has some kind of dark blue navy undertones. It's a little bit blown out here on my camera, and I can try to edit that some, but you will definitely see a more color accurate representation of this color in my swatches. Here's our first coat of Mariachi Makes My Day. So this one covers, again, pretty well here in this first coat, not completely opaque, pretty patchy, so I am going to go in for a second coat. This one also has a good formula. Again, no running, pooling, staining, right on par with a typical OPI cream formula. I feel like I'm running out of things to say. So here's our second coat, and this does cover completely in 2 coats. This one has this beautiful kind of bluey hue to it. I really like this color, and I'm not a huge fan of purples in general, but I think this one is really gorgeous. So there is 2 coats. And lastly for today we have Hue Is The Artist, and here's another OPI that is an almost white or practically white cream. They tend to do these a lot where they have like a white base and add just like a drop of a different color into it, and this one has like a drop of a maybe pinky purple. And here's our first coat of Hue Is The Artist. So this one is pretty opaque on the first coat, but pretty patchy, so I am going to go ahead and build this one up. This is pretty standard for these OPI almost white polishes. As to be expected, I am going to do 3 coats today, but as I use these kind of polishes, they typically tend to thicken up into 2 coaters, and I do expect this one to do the same. So like I said, this one builds up well in 2 coats, but it's not there. If you go in a little bit thicker, you could probably get this one fine in 2 coats. Again, I was super shaky, so all of those things like together, 2 coats might be acceptable for you in this one, but I do prefer these in 3 until they get a little bit thicker. This, just like the rest of them, will dry glossy on its own, but again, I would recommend top coat because you worked so hard to put on 3 coats of polish, you might as well protect it. So there is 3 coats. I liked a lot in this collection. So the obvious one for me being Don't Tell a Soul. I have this huge obsession for yellow nail polishes. This one is really beautiful, really fun, really summery, really bright on the nail. pretty good formula, 3-coater, not to be unexpected of a yellow, so I really like that one. I really liked these two blues, Mexico City Movement and Verde Nice to Meet You, teal, and then the powdery baby blue. These are so beautiful, and I think this is probably going to be like one of my palette colors come the spring and the summertime. So really, really like those two. And then my probably favorite of the collection would be Culling Your Spirit Animal. I really, really like this against my skin tone. I mean, it's not a super coral. It's a coral, but it's got like a lot of peachy to it. So it makes it kind of pretty original in my collection. Very good formula, very beautiful polish. This is going to be, again, a really good spring and summer color for me. So these were the 4 standouts in the collection for me. And guys, that is it. Let me know in the comments below what you thought of this collection. Let me know if you plan on picking any of them up, and let me know what your favorite was. Give this video a thumbs up if you liked it. Subscribe if you'd like to see more from me, and I will talk to you again next time.